Picture this scenario. It's 6:15 a.m. on a Monday. Your alarm is blaring a sound you've grown to despise. You're already tired. On your commute, you scroll through LinkedIn and see that someone you went to college with just sold their startup for $14 million. You sit through back-to-back meetings that could have been emails, nodding politely while mentally calculating your credit card bill. Then, your phone buzzes. Notification. Your direct deposit of $2,483.76 just hit your account. You feel it. That brief chemical serotonin spike. Relief. You can pay rent, you can afford DoorDash tonight. You use that little hit of compliance fuel to power through 3 more hours of updating a spreadsheet for a project you don't believe in, too mentally drained to work on your own business idea, too anxious to actually relax, so you scroll and stream until you pass out. What if I told you that monthly deposit isn't compensation for your time? But what if I told you it's a carefully calculated psychological pacifier? But what if I told you your salary is just a bribe, a drug they administer every 2 weeks to make you forget what you actually wanted from your life? This isn't just a bad job. This is a systemic transaction designed to harvest your most productive years in exchange for just enough money to keep you from revolting. My name is Bobby, and I spend way too much time thinking about the invisible economics of modern work. If you're someone who feels a vague sense of dread on Sunday nights, or if you've ever looked at your bank account after a bonus and still felt empty, or if you've ever wondered why making more money never seems to solve the underlying anxiety, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today we aren't talking about getting a raise or finding a side hustle. We are talking about the psychological transaction happening every single pay period. We're talking about why your dreams have a price tag your employer knows down to the cent. Here's the thing about your paycheck. Conventional wisdom says it's a fair exchange, your time for their money. Work 40 hours, get X dollars. They tell you that a steady growing salary is the ultimate marker of adult success and security. But that advice ignores a fundamental, uncomfortable truth. Your salary isn't just payment for labor. It's a precision instrument of control. It's designed to cover your expenses, but never your aspirations. To understand why, we need to talk about the core concept at play, the compliance equilibrium. Let me take you back to Detroit, Michigan in 1914. The air is thick with industrial smoke and labor unrest. At the Ford Motor Company, worker turnover is an astronomical 370%. It's costing a fortune to constantly train new people. Henry Ford, with his financial advisor James Couzens, has a problem. The revolutionary assembly line makes production brutally efficient, but the work itself is so monotonous, so degrading that people just walk away. They're not just losing workers, they're losing the compliance needed to run the machine. So on January 5, 1914, Ford makes an announcement that shocks the world. He's more than doubling the standard wage to $5 a day. The press calls it economic folly. But look what happens. Overnight, thousands line up for jobs. Ford gets his pick of the most diligent workers. Turnover plummets. Productivity soars. And here's the masterstroke. Workers, now terrified of losing this golden ticket, comply with the brutal, repetitive pace without protest. But even more crucially, Ford workers could now afford to buy the very Model T they were building. He wasn't just creating obedient employees, he was creating a captive customer base. A new calculus was born in that moment. Pay a worker just enough more than his alternatives that he becomes deeply afraid to lose the job, but never enough that he can accumulate real capital or freedom. The $5 day wasn't generosity. It was the birth of the modern psychological wage. Ford discovered the exact price point to purchase worker compliance and reduce dissent, and turned a salary from compensation into a retainer for obedience. This was the first major corporate calculation of the compliance equilibrium. The goal shifted from paying for labor to funding a worker's subsistence, thereby mortgaging their ambition to the company. This is a real place. This place isn't defended by the apparat. And she hates it. She hates the corporate politics, the endless reorgs, the feeling her work has no meaning. Every 2 weeks, $6,800 hits her account. It covers her $3,200 San Francisco apartment, her $900 student loan payment, her $600 organic grocery and wellness habit, and the $1,200 lease on her Tesla Model Y. runs her self-care vacations to Costa Rica, which she needs to recover from her burnout. See the trap? The system has precisely calibrated her lifestyle inflation. Freedom, it's funding the recovery from the job that pays the salary. The raise she got didn't go to investments, it went to a more expensive therapist and a Peloton to manage the job-induced stress, a behavior to leave. She'd have to downgrade her entire identity. The fear isn't poverty, it's social and personal devaluation. The bribe isn't just cash, it's a curated identity of success. Then there's David, 45, making $110,000 as a middle manager. His entire financial architecture, his $2,500 mortgage, his kids' private school tuition, the family's health insurance plan, is welded to his job title. The thought of pivoting is neutered by the sheer logistical carnage it would cause. His salary is the monthly maintenance fee on a life he doesn't have time to enjoy. Whose $38,000 salary just covers rent and ramen, leaving no energy for art school, and the consultant whose $180,000 bonus is immediately spent on status armor like a Rolex to survive the next cycle. This is what we call lifestyle lock-in. Your paycheck is the operating capital for a life built around recovering from the work that provides the paycheck. Let's perform a brutal audit of this. Let's call this person Alex. Alex starts with what looks like a great salary, 80% $5,000 a year. That's $83 a month, gross. That's the number you tell your parents. That's the number on your offer letter. First, there's the government's cut. You never even see this money. After federal tax at 22%, state tax at 5%, and FICA at 7.65%, you keep roughly 65%. 1783 times 0.60 times 5 is $4,604 net per month. That's our starting line. But that's the easy math. We all know about taxes. Now we have to subtract the job maintenance fee. This is the hidden tax of having the job, the commute, gas, tolls, car depreciation. Let's call that $450. The professional wardrobe you wouldn't otherwise buy, $200. The $15 lunches because you're too drained to meal prep, $300. Very expensive convenience services, house cleaning, delivery, because your time is gone, $250. That's a conservative $1,200 a month that only exists because you have the job. So $4,600 and $4,200 is $3,000 of $404. But we're not done. Now we subtract the recovery surcharge. This is the cost of recovering from the job so you can do it again. Therapy to cope, $200. Gym membership to manage stress, $80. Behavior wine and streaming subscriptions to numb out, $120. Retail therapy impulse buys, $200. And amortize those escape vacations, $400 a month. That's another $1,000. $3,404 minus $1,104, and it gets worse. Then there's the darkest category, the dream deferment tax. This is the opportunity cost of not building your own thing, those 2 to 3 hours per night and weekends spent recovering instead of building a skill or business. That's value that lost time conservatively at $30 an hour for just 10 hours a week. $30 times 10 hours times 4.3 weeks in a month is $1,290 of lost potential income. Respectory cardio. Let's add it up. Alex traded 160 hours of his life, his creative energy, and his peaceful mental state. He started with the idea of $7,083. Behavior after taxes, $4,604. After the job maintenance fee, $3,404. After the recovery surcharge, $2,404. And after accounting for the lost dream building time, the net value of his compliance is $2,404. That's $15.03 per hour for his total life energy. Dollars an hour, his gross salary promised. That's not a typo. An $85,000 salary actually became a $15 an hour life when you audit the real cost. And we haven't even touched on the data that proves this is a mass phenomenon. According to Gallup's 2023 State of the Global Workplace report, only 21% of employees are actually engaged at work, or 59% are quiet quitting, mentally checked out, and 20% are loud quitting, actively disengaged. The vast majority are psychologically divorced from the work they're bribed to do. 22 Federal Reserve study found that 64% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, including 48% of those earning over $100,000 a year. Why higher salaries aren't creating security, they're fueling more expensive compliance. In a landmark 2010 study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences by researchers like Daniel Kahneman found that after basic needs are met, additional income has a negligible effect on daily happiness if it comes at the cost of time, autonomy, and mental bandwidth. The thing we trade our time for actively destroys the value of that money if it removes our sense of control. This means the system is working exactly as designed. Disengaged but compliant workers living on a financial knife edge with no mental space to question the transaction. And before you say, but people need jobs to survive,
I agree. This isn't about quitting. It's about seeing the transaction clearly. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports the median job tenure is just 4.1 years.
The system depends on you churning, on you needing the next bribe from the next employer, never building lasting equity in yourself. That's the equivalent of being a perpetual tenant in your own life, always paying rent on your time, but never building ownership. Run. This is where it gets really interesting. The compliance equilibrium creates a perfect, inescapable cycle. When you get a raise, you inflate your lifestyle, a better apartment, a nicer car, more subscriptions. That higher lifestyle increases your monthly nut. Your non-negotiable expenses, that higher nut, forces you to be more afraid to lose the job, more compliant, less likely to rock the boat or take a risk. And that increased fear makes you a more reliable cog, which kills the entrepreneurial energy that could actually build an exit ramp. It's like a hamster wheel that sprays you with nutrient gel the faster you run. A behavior. The gel keeps you running, but the design of the wheel ensures you never actually get anywhere. The gel isn't the reward, it's the fuel for the wheel itself. And here's what really gets me. The entire corporate stability complex relies on this. Consulting firms like McKinsey sell employee engagement strategies that are really just better dosing mechanisms for the bribe. Apartment complex near corporate headquarters. Budgets for you spending 30% of your income on rent. The auto dealer knows your lease payment will be exactly 10% of your take-home pay. They profit on you needing the job to pay for the life. They depend on you conflating salary with success. They literally budget for your annual bonus being spent on a depreciating asset within 60 days. When you start doing things differently, when you live on half and invest the rest, you become a bad customer for this entire ecosystem. But you become the CFO of your own freedom. That industry wants you focused on career laddering and title promotions because that hides the truth. You're on a treadmill, not a ladder. They want you obsessed with the size of the bribe so you never question its purpose. A paper, this isn't just bad personal finance. This is a predatory psychological transaction. They aren't buying your work output. They're buying your fear, your ambition, and your quiet resignation, and they itemize it on their books as salaries and wages. Now, I can hear the objections already. Bobby, this is so cynical. People have bills. Work is noble. And look, I get it. That seems like the responsible, adult perspective. But I'm not saying don't work. I'm saying see the transaction for what it is. Ask yourself, is your work truly noble, or are you just attaching nobility to it to tolerate the trade? Paying bills is one thing. Using bills as the perpetual reason to never build something that's yours is the trap. You might also be thinking, but I make good money, or I provide for my family. That's success. Providing is sacred, but is the best you can provide a stressed-out version of yourself and a blueprint for your kids to enter the same cycle? Or is it financial security and a model of autonomy? The system loves when we frame provider as sacrificial lamb. The problem isn't work. The problem is unconscious exchange, behavior. So what do you actually do with this information? How do you escape the trap? Let me give you something practical. Strategy number 1, the reverse budget. This is where, instead of budgeting your expenses against your income, you budget your income against your freedom target. It flips the script. Your goal isn't to afford a nicer car. Your goal is to reduce the monthly cash required to live, thereby lowering the bribe you need to accept. Here's how to implement it. Step 1. Calculate your true monthly nut. Just the basics like shelter, food, healthcare, and insurance. Be ruthless. Step 2. Aggressively attack every cost outside that nut. Can you downsize, eliminate, or DIY? Step 3. The gap between your current salary and your nut is your compliance premium. Your mission is to shrink it. Step 4. Redirect every dollar of that shrinking premium. First, to a 6-month emergency fund of just your nut, then to income-generating assets. For example, if your nut is $3,000 a month but you earn $7,000, you have a $4,000 compliance premium. Shrinking your nut to $2,500 frees you to walk away from any job that demands soul-crushing compliance for that extra $500. Strategy number 2, the identity cap. This is deliberately capping how much of your identity and lifestyle you allow to be funded by your salary, as your success costume isn't purchased by the entity you might need to escape from. Here's how. Choose 1, maybe 2 lifestyle areas maximum that your salary is allowed to fund. Behavior. For example, rent and healthy food. Everything else, hobbies, luxury, travel, gadgets, must be funded from a side asset or business. No side income? You don't get the toy. This creates painful productive pressure. If your W-2 only pays for apartment and groceries, that new gaming PC or trip to Mexico has to come from your freelance work or dividend payments. Per fee dries and freelance dries up. You sell the PC, your core security is never threatened, and you build the muscle of earning outside the system. Strategy number 3, the freedom hour. Behavior. This is about monetizing 1 single hour per day, 100% outside of your job, and investing 100% of the proceeds. It's psychologically transformative. Proves your time has value beyond the sanctioned corporate rate. Implement it like this. Block 6 to 7 a.m. or 8 to 9 p.m. Unnegotiable. 1 hour. Your task, provide a service. Create a digital product, write code, consult. Charge for it immediately, even if it's only $20. Take every single dollar earned and put it into a separate Freedom Fund brokerage account. Index funds. Never spend it. Watch this tiny asset grow. The money isn't the point. The point is the psychological shift from seeing yourself as an employee to seeing yourself as an owner. The biggest shift is psychological. You have to start seeing your hours as venture capital you're allocating, not as a raw material you're selling wholesale. If you're not your salary, you're not your title, you're the gap between your market worth and your personal nut and the growth rate of your non-human capital. Here's what I want you to do this weekend. Open a spreadsheet. In column A, list your take-home pay. In column B, list every single expense that exists only because you have the job. Your commute costs, your work clothes, your I had a hard day spending. Subtract B from A. That is your starting line. I want to leave you with one final thought. A career isn't really about money. It's about the gradual trade of your aliveness for a sense of security. We thought we were trading time for money, but we were trading curiosity for certainty, passion for predictability. Our grandparents often had one employer for life, but they also had pensions, a genuine claim on the company's future profits, and 401 percentage one, making us solely responsible for funding our own exile while our most vital years are owned by the corporate ledger. The people who actually thrive financially aren't the ones with the highest salary. They're the ones with the lowest personal overhead and the highest percentage of income from assets they control. Sure, their time is theirs because they didn't use all their money to buy back their own life from their employer. You can't out-earn a designed trap, but you can out-invest it. You can out-save it. You can out-psych it. You can accept the bribe consciously while using it to fund your defection. You're not broken for feeling trapped on a Sunday night. You're human, responding correctly to a lopsided trade. This journey is unfair, and it's hard. But once you understand that your salary is a tactic and not a trophy, everything changes. Behavior. You can start playing a completely different game. If this video sparked something in you or opened your eyes, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Smash that like button and hit subscribe for more content that challenges how you think about money. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.